Ladies and gentlemen,
Boneddigion a boneddigesau.
welcome to Oystermouth Cemetery.
Croeso I fynwent ystum llwynarth.
For our final film this summer, we are happy to introduce you to one of Mumbles' hidden gems.
Oystermouth Cemetery has been for over 125 years the final resting place of local residents of Mumbles.
Today, together with Mumbles Community Council, we will show you some of its remarkable occupants. I'm Sonia Beck.
And I am Adrian Metcalf. We are Lighthouse Theatre.
Welcome to Stumbles Through Mumbles.
When Oystermouth Cemetery was designed, way back in the early 1880s, you didn't enter through the ornate driveway that approaches from the village today. Back then, in its design stage, the original entrance was from above. This gateway at the end of Slade Road in Newton, which is still operational today, was the only way in. By the time of its opening, the new driveway was included, but we will begin our walk from the original Slade Road entrance.
Coming down the pathway, the first view of the cemetery is over a vast sea of the original burials and gravestones, ornaments to the love and care of generations of this village. Turning left, we continue to a distant, almost overgrown corner of the plot, where a ruddy sandstone Celtic cross marks a spot of someone about whom we've already spoken. The final resting place of the composer, Morfydd Owen, who passed away in Mumbles in February of 1917.
The circumstances surrounding the death of this beautiful young woman have been shrouded in controversy since the century or so since she passed. Already, by the age of 24, she was a member of the Godseth of the Bards and a highly acclaimed composer and performer throughout the world. Perhaps, surprisingly, her epitaph is in German, chosen perhaps by her psychoanalyst husband, who was a disciple of Sigmund Freud. It's written here: Das Unbeschreibliche ist getan. It's a quote from Goethe's Faust. The undescribable is here done.
Moving on from Morfydd, we rejoin the path, passing many beautiful ornate monuments, including the grave of the very first inhabitant of the cemetery, Alfred Carson Gelderd. The avenue of yew trees, traditional trees in cemeteries all over the country, provides a guard of honour for the graves of our next residents.
I'm standing here between the graves of James Gammon and William Rogers, the first of which died in the lifeboat disaster of 1903. And the latter in the tragedy of 1883. In addition, there are 6 graves here of those who perished in the SS Santampa tragedy of 1947. The Mumbles lifeboat and its dramas have been a part of Mumbles life ever since this cemetery was opened. In total, 18 Mumbles lifeboatmen lost their lives to the sea, and many of them are buried here.
Any local resident would know the name Gammon. There have been members of the Gammon family manning the Mumbles lifeboat for generations. Oystermouth Cemetery is full of names that we've been in school with, played with, drunk with, and eaten ice cream with. Gammon, Ace, Fallon, Presdy, Rabiotti, Cavelli, testament to the continuation of life in the village throughout the century and a quarter that this cemetery has been open.
We move on now, past many plots of the earliest interments. When it opened, people were allowed to choose where they wished to lie, which explains why so many of the earliest graves are all over the lower section. It also explains why, dotted all over the cemetery, are the familiar site of the Edward Lutyens designed Commonwealth war graves. In all, there are 83 war graves in the cemetery, and many more of soldiers who survived, including this, the grave of William Fuller. He was the first Welsh recipient of the Victoria Cross during the First World War, and he passed away at the ripe old age of 90 in 1974.
With Peel's Wood on one side and lying in a valley leading up from Underhill Park, the more recent graves stretch up onto Cots Hill. We move on that way now.
This is the grave of my namesake, no relation, Roger Beck, a businessman and philanthropist who died in 1923. He was chairperson of the Swansea Harbour Trust and the Great Western Railway. Beck House in Swansea University is named after him, as are several streets round about town. In addition, he was a great fan of Charles Dickens and could apparently recite the whole of A Christmas Carol from memory. On his death, he earned the title Swansea's Greatest Citizen and Prince of Benefactors. Clearly more a Bob Cratchit than a Scrooge.
Passing the Columbarium, places to store people's ashes, on our right, we approach the Plosker Memorial Gates. These gates were erected to act as a memorial to the 6 million victims of the Holocaust, and they mark the entrance to the Hebrew burial ground of the cemetery, a privately run necropolis which is not open to the public. The present synagogue in Swansea is in Fenoni, but the once thriving community's synagogue was in the now disappeared Goat Street, flattened during the 3-night splits of February 1941.
Swansea and Mumbles have a long and proud tradition of immigration. What seaport doesn't? A cursory glance at the surnames in the cemetery can bear witness to this. Even now, Swansea is a proud city of sanctuary to asylum seekers from all over the world, one of the first cities in the UK to bear that title.
Irish families in the 19th century, including my own. Italian families in the late 1930s, and many others since, have made huge contributions to the history and makeup and the triumphs and tragedies of our village.
The last visit of this short film is to the grave of yet another composer. We've come full circle. Although he lived a little longer than Morfydd Owen, he was another whose time was cut tragically short at the peak of his powers. You may not have heard the name of Harry Parr-Davies, but you will have heard his songs. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way.
Harry Parr-Davies was born in Briton Ferry on the other side of Swansea Bay back in 1914. In fact, if you stand on tiptoe, you can probably just see it over there, as we say. He was a child prodigy. He'd written his first operetta by the age of 14, and when his head teacher found out how much he'd been paid for writing his first song, he didn't stand in his way when Harry left and went Dick Whittington-like to London to earn his fortune. Pretty soon he was composing music for musical revues in the 30s and the 40s, and he became the accompanist to Gracie Fields until he enlisted in the Irish Guards at the beginning of the Second World War. Gracie Fields was asked to perform for ENSA, the Entertainment National Service Agency. To the likes of you and me, it ain't half hot, mum. Gracie refused to tour without Harry playing for her. So Harry's history was rerouted, so to speak. And the rest, as they say, really is history.
This brings us to the end of our walk, and indeed to this series of short films.
But there is so much more of both this cemetery and our village to explore.
With any luck, we'll be able to welcome you in person on one of our stumbles through Mumbles. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thanks very much. And we will leave you now with one of Harry Parr's more famous tunes. The perfect end, so to speak.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.